All right, so welcome everybody back to the Wolfmothers Council. Today we are going to be talking a lot more about the matriarchy specifically, the misunderstandings around it. A lot of people will think one thing when the reality is something else. So the whole point of today's discussion is really going to be about making that clear, as clear as we can, as far as like, this is what we're talking about when we say matriarchy. And it feels really important that we do this because if we don't clear this up, I think that that's where a lot of these misconceptions and misunderstandings are stemming from, is because people just genuinely don't know what we mean when we say that. So let's see. The biggest misconception I would say about matriarchy is that people just think that it's the patriarchy flipped, when that could be the furthest thing from the truth. Because if that's the only lens that we're using, which is understandable, right? Because it's really the only one that we've known for a long time. But that's not at all what this is. Not at all what this is. And in fact, we're going to touch base on that a little bit further on today as well. But in essence, even the terms patriarchy and matriarchy are patriarchal terms. And these are things that are going to definitely trigger a lot of you. So I really like to start this whole thing off by making sure you guys know that it does come with a trigger warning. You're probably going to hear words that are going to make you feel a certain way in your body. You might want to fight it immediately. My encouragement to you would be to, or my challenge rather, would be to sit with it and listen. Just listen. We normally would like to start these off as well with a good sound healing. Are you prepped for that today, Shannon?
I do not have my sound stuff, but we can just do a little anchoring in.
Perfect. Yeah.
All
right.
Yeah. So maybe anybody who's here, again, same as last time, put your hand on your heart, take a nice deep breath in. And let's anchor in our heart space to the awareness that we are holding onto 12 generations of ancestral lineage in our blood, in the carbon in our bones, in our DNA. That's 4,094 human beings spanning back about 1,000 years. Bringing to the surface any of the wisdom from that ancestral lineage, discarding and letting go of, and bringing to the surface anything that needs to be cleared from any of the chaos, the destruction, and the enslavement that has taken place over those times, that is still being held in our bones and our blood, so that we can think ahead to our ancestors 12 generations forward. What will the world look like for them? How do we plant better seeds of inclusion and creation, co-creation, and weaving a better story for the entire human collective? Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you. That was lovely. Hold on, I'm still getting the hang of like switching all these back and forth. Hang on.
My dog decided to join today.
Oh, good. I put mine away for now because he loves to be in my face.
He usually stays on the couch until about noon, so I'm a little bit scared.
All right, let's see. I wanted to next open the floor up to you guys because we are definitely touching on something that I think a lot of opinions are going to be necessary for this conversation. So I'm curious what you both see when people hear matriarchy. What do you feel that they're actually reacting to? Anyone can pop in and go first.
I think a lot of people, because of living under the patriarchy, hear hierarchy immediately and assume that it just means, oh, well, women are going to take control in the same way that men have taken control, and it will be some kind of mirror experiment of that, which is not what we're talking about.
Right. What about you, Shannon? What do you think that they're actually reacting to?
Yeah, I think, again, to the points that were just made, and that we have no perspective to align it with, right? We don't have a clear sense of what that would look like or mean. So if I was to say make up a word, we wouldn't, we have to have something to latch hold of that is in our own understanding of how things function. And I think because we don't have a clear model of that, there's really nothing as a frame of reference. So that also triggers people into the space of, well, it's just going to be a rebranded form of patriarchy.
Right. And I would definitely encourage everyone to do their research on that, because that's not the case. And just like one of the commenters down there is saying about the Cree Nation, that's true for a lot of indigenous cultures. A lot, most of them were matrilineal, which means it was very much focused on the feminine and what the feminine is bringing to the table is just as important, if not more, than the men in the way that it's structured. Meaning the women are in control, but of certain things that women are already in control of right now. We're just doing it anyway, even though we don't ask for permission, like running the household. We'd love the help, but most women, even married women, are what I'm hearing a lot of is they don't get the help, and they feel like single women in a marriage because they're just doing it all, and the men are expected, right, in the patriarchy to be the ones to go out and make all the money. But then that also puts this mentality, I think, with men. And men, I would love it if you pipe in at the end of our conversation today, because I want to hear what your thoughts are on this. But I really, truly believe that a huge part of that, and this is how the patriarchy is hurting men as well, is it's making you believe that your only job is to provide and to protect, right? Which I think is why a lot of this disintegration is happening, because we're all getting labels placed on us without fully integrating them into who we really are. And so we're just hearing these words like they're catchphrases, like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm a protector, I'm a provider. Guess I gotta go to work now. But the problem is that's not how women really view men. That's how the patriarchy is describing how women view men. And that's what they're feeding you. And it's not the truth. What I know to be a fact is that there are so many women out there that are so thankful when a man actually is stepping up and doing his role. And the same thing obviously is true for women. But the problem is that it's usually the women who are just stepping up and doing it, not looking for any type of compliment on it. And it's kind of a bunny trail, I know, I'm sorry, but I feel like it needed to be said. So even the way that we define power, leadership, structure, all of that is through this patriarchal lens. Everything that we know to be true filters through this patriarchy. Everything. I'm going to say it one more time. Everything. To the point where I get sick of hearing myself say it. That's a problem of the patriarchy. That's a problem of the patriarchy. That's a problem. And I can see how this can get triggering to so many people, just being like, oh, you're a feminist because all you care about is the patriarchy. All you say is patriarchy. Just slow down and listen to what's actually being said. Because what we're saying is there's a reason why everything is happening right now. And it all stems back to the same reason. We are doing deep surgery right now on our culture by finding where these veins lead to. And they're all leading back to the same point, which is the patriarchy. So all that to say, even the terms patriarchy, matriarchy are all through this filter of what a man thinks power looks like. So now the matriarchy is woman taking control over the man. That's not the case. That's actually not even close to the case. That's just how the patriarchy is defining matriarchy. If you do enough studying on your own, you begin to see, like that earlier comment, many of our cultures from the very beginning of time started out as matriarchies or matrilineal, meaning it followed the line of the woman. The men would join the household of the woman. And that created the clans, right? That was the family. That was the village. They kept the last names of the women. If the women felt like it was no longer aligned, they had the right to divorce them. All they would do is put their things outside of the home And that was it. Like there was no more discussion needed. Like the guy just understood, okay, I guess my time with her is up. And I'm not saying necessarily we go back to all of that, but I am saying that there is so much wisdom and knowledge in the past of how our ancestors got us here today through a matriarchy, which the biggest difference, and we'll get to that, but I want to give a moment here for you guys to pipe in as well. The biggest difference is that the matriarchy is centered. It's a circle where the patriarchy is the triangle, saying you're on top of this triangle, everyone else is underneath you. They all fit into place where they belong. The matriarchy is a circle. There's no one on top. It's everyone together doing the work, doing the job that they're meant to do in that space, in that community, in that village, in that town, in that city, in that neighborhood, right? You're all doing the work. No one, and the people in the middle are the children. The most valuable asset are the children. They are in the middle of that circle, protected by everyone else. There is no hierarchy in the matriarchy. Do you guys want to pipe in with anything there?
Yeah, I think to speak on the indigenous reference, I think that the greatest example that we can look to on functional systems in any natural living environment are that the majority of animal in the mammal world all run on a matriarchal system.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not always depicted most in like naturalistic videos and whatnot, but think of elephants. Elephants are the greatest example of a matriarchal culture.
Right.
They honor the children. Everyone protects the children. It's a very village-based kind of thing. And this is because the gestational period of elephants is the longest of any mammals. And so when that elephant baby is born, that baby is valued. That baby is honored.
Right.
And even as far as their death rituals, that is also another layer of it. Like, I think that's when we can look to the natural world for reference in functioning systems, in systems that have been in place for millennium, then we build better systems through viewing things through the natural lens, the lens of the natural world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents on it, Jules.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with everything that y'all just said. And for some reason, what my brain is getting stuck on is we're jumping immediately to structure, but we're not talking about how internalized this has gotten. And I feel like uniquely qualified to speak on this because I was raised basically to be a man. I was born into a family where my mom grew up with all brothers and all male cousins, and then I came along and they were like, oh shit, what do we do with her? And so I got socially and emotionally groomed as a man and was very consequentially grew up with this kind of this sense that I didn't really want to be friends with women because they were catty, they were dramatic, they were manipulative, they were drama, right? And it took me a really long time to figure out that in my head these two pedestals had been created and men were just slightly up here. Right. And that then transferred. You talk about men wanting to be protectors and providers and things like that. And I think that's still their role. But when what you're protecting is considered beneath what you need to protect them from, then that creates this whole opening for other men to do whatever they want to. And for the men that are supposed to be protectors go, well, they're in their dominant position. They have the right to. And that's how we end up with a rape academy with 62 million men visiting that thing. I haven't been able to get a story out of my head.
Yeah,
and
same.
I think the circle analogy is so brilliant. When we talk about matriarchy, we're not talking about flipping the table over. We're just talking about like, let us back at the table. If you can't equalize men and women in your head, you're fucked from the jump. And I know I'm cussing a lot. I do that.
It's okay. No, that's 100%. 100%. Because that is the case, right? Like we have to look realistically at the past. We have to. And we tapped on this last week too, or 2 weeks ago. Realistically, factually, when the patriarchy came around, the women were abused. They were demeaned. They were brought down, like she's saying, to that lower pedestal where the men were now over the women. It's never meant to be like that. And I'm sure everyone in their heart knows that. They know that. It is a matter of looking realistically at the past, at what we've been through as a culture, as a society, as sexes. When we talk about this stuff, it's important to understand that we're not, and I got more videos on this coming out too. I had one today. This is not man-hating at all. In fact, we are pleading with you. We are begging you to finally do the role that you know that you're meant to do, which is protect and provide. Not for us in a home in that sense, but in the real world. We need you. We need you to protect us and provide for us in that way. When you see things happening, 62 million people, good God, not people, probably mostly men, on a website of how to, that's all I got to say on that. We need you to protect us, to provide for us in that way. It's important. And this, Jules, you had a video about this a couple weeks ago, and I died laughing because it's so true. The amount of play that you would get, the amount of women that would be just like fawning over you, right? Which I know is not the point, but it's so true. Because all that women really want is a man who's embodied in himself enough, safe enough in himself to let a woman feel safe standing next to him. It's never been about rescuing. It's never been about a princess in a castle, no matter how much the patriarchy tried to tell both sexes that was the case. It's not. Women genuinely just want like a real partnership. And they're willing to stay single. We've seen that now. Like we're willing to stay single until the right person comes along because we're tired. We don't want to do it anymore. We don't want to play the games anymore. And I'm pretty sure that this is helping men get to that point as well. Organically, I don't think that it was the sole purpose. I think the sole purpose was women just saying enough. And hopefully this is going to be something that will help the men as well to really, and I take my hat off to a lot of these men out there that I follow. Some of you follow them as well, but they are actively trying to listen. They are actively trying to be the ones speaking out on behalf of women because they understand that most men will never hear anything we have to say here today unless it's coming from a man's mouth. And that's sad, but it's the truth. So yeah, it's a very deep, much bigger conversation. And I knew that this would happen. I knew that we would do like bunny trails and stuff on everything going on, which I'm okay with. That's kind of the whole point of the thing. Do you guys have anything to pipe in there?
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
Look, I love men, and a lot of that comes from the fact that I grew up being best friends with them. I've seen them at their best. I know what they're capable of, but I also saw that switch. I found more camaraderie and protection and solidarity when they were perceiving me as a cool guy with long hair than I did the moment they started perceiving me as a woman.
Yeah.
There was a huge, and it was disconcerting. Suddenly I hit a certain age and it was almost impossible to build friendships with men because they're programmed to be on the hunt and start looking for like, what does this mean that she's talking to me and this, that, and the other. Men, we need the men. We're not getting anywhere without the men.
Agreed.
I want to speak to an experience I just had. I was hiking last week and I fell and dislocated my shoulder. And like I almost went over a waterfall. It was a very like treacherous situation. And when I sat up after I got myself to a secure location, my arm was quite literally hanging off my body. I had to like do emergency like relocation. Now, in that moment of relocating my shoulder, I had an awareness. Now, when we break our body up into sides, the left side is feminine, the right side is masculine. That's the Ida and the Pingala of the Kundalini snakes. Your divine feminine is your left side, your divine masculine is your right side. And happens in any body, right? So my right shoulder is dislocated. And I'm aware of the reality that, we have a thing called soul fragmentation when we experience trauma. There was a soul dislocation that had to happen where a part of my divine masculine had to live outside of my body to protect my being. Mm-hmm. Okay. So in relocating my shoulder, all of me came back into my body, but the awareness of how long that I have been having a part of my own being outside of myself, because it has not been safe for me to be fully integrated in this world. And we can see this in this website. We can see this in all of the things that are being brought to our awareness right now. Okay. Mm-hmm. The ways in which single mothers have to embody both masculine and feminine. They have to be protector and provider, nurturer and nourisher, all at once. And this is a cultural fragmentation. Mm-hmm. So we're realigning all of these things. And that's what the matriarchy it comes down to, is a realignment of the fragmentations that have allowed dysfunctional and broken systems to exploit human beings, to exploit and cause much harm to women and children. And so it's bringing all of that back into alignment. And that very much requires embodied men, so that women don't have to shield themselves outside of their bodies just to be alive in the world. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a huge shift that we're going to see happening right now in the world, in the planet, with all this fire sign. There's a lot of transformation happening to aid in the realignment of those fragment points.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I agree. Because I think that we are at a point right now, and this is something that we will talk about here on my page, is the alignments, right? Like we're moving into Aquarius. We were already there, right? We're already there. This is just what it looks like in the beginning stages of complete change. We're in it right now. And I think the whole point and purpose of even doing this live series together with you guys is really getting to the core of what do we want? What do we want? I tell a lot of my clients when I do one-on-one calls with them that, like, you have to understand that when you hit rock bottom, it is the best place to be, because at that point, there is no more foundation. It's been wiped out from underneath you. So good. You get to build it back now how you want it to look. We, especially, I know a lot of men feel this too. Don't get me wrong. But I know for a fact a lot of women are already feeling it. We know that what's done is done. Like, this isn't reality anymore. Reality has shifted already. We're just watching it play out right now. And I don't know about you guys if you feel the same way, but I know for me personally, it's loud and clear. There is no second guessing, like, oh, we're going to remain in a patriarchy for another 3 centuries. No. I don't see it happening. I don't. I think that enough people now are awake. And that's, again, the whole purpose of all of this, is to try to help shape and form what it can look like. Try to dispel the fears of what you think it might turn into. Because that's another whole thing that I think also needs to get addressed, is that, especially with the mainstream media and things, we are only fed the fear side of things. It's never the good news. It's never the well, here's the positive of what could happen. Here's the hopefulness. And that alone is one small thing that could make a huge difference, right? So I have other groups that I talk to over time about stuff in general about this. I don't know if Trippy's still in here, but she also runs a lot of like community efforts and talking about bringing us together, right? Another guy on here, his name's Tony, Middle Road Sanity. Their whole purpose is doing what we're doing as well right now, which is helping you see the vision. The vision is there. It's possible. It just takes each and every single one of us playing our part. And that's the beautiful thing of it. Because if we're all doing it, if we're all just doing our part, it's not going to be hard. It won't be difficult because everyone is doing their part. The circle, right? Everyone's doing their part. We are not trying to make women in charge. I want to make that so bold and clear. It is not about making women now the leaders of the world. Will that happen as a byproduct of what I'm recommending? Sure. But that's not the point. That's not the point. It's not about men versus women. It's never been about men versus women. And I get so passionate about it because it's like, at what point is it enough? Back to the question from our first live, right? At what point is it enough? Do you guys have something to add?
I think you're right in that, like, it's happening. We've made this kind of like foregone conclusion, and I saw somebody in the comments saying that we're living in the Handmaid's Tale now, and I think what we're seeing in terms of like that getting so much more extreme, and we got politicians talking about your biological destiny and things like that. I think they're going that far off tilt because they recognize like they're in their death rattle, right? So they're trying to claw back as much as we can. And if anything, for people that feel hopeless or that feel like it's all gotten out of control and we can't gain any ground back, I would offer a perspective shift in that, like it's like a wild coyote getting cornered and they're snapping, like, right. That's almost a sign of what is rising within the women, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying. They're not gonna do it. It's not
right.
I completely lost my train of thought there when she just said the thing about the coyote, because I work with a lot of very traumatized kids, and I feel like part of what is, and to talk about too what Desiree just said, we're always being shown fear narratives, when in reality, I think there is much more hopefulness that is flowing through the human story right now. There is much more community building and collaboration, but it's not sensational enough to get the attention, right? So it also comes down to us wanting to consume the hopeful stories, not feeding into those fear agendas and feeding into those fear stories, and living by that example of being and planting seeds of hopefulness to kind of downplay the way that all the rest of it is being sensationalized. So, but again, there's nothing, we live in a dopamine addicted culture. This app in and of itself is about scrolls and likes and how can you hook somebody in the first 3 seconds. Right. And so how to compete against that is a really tricky thing. But I think everything always comes down to energy, frequency, and vibration. And it's the stable and steady that gets us through. Back to, again, the emergency situation I just had. It was in being calm and focused in that, where I was literally thinking of every single thing that needed to be done to get me back to my car. Right. And it's in emergency situations that are nurturing, rebuilding, and that line of thinking comes to the forefront. So how dire does our culture need to get before we all start acting from that place? I don't know, but I feel like shifting into that mindset is more where we're heading.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I can even expand on that too, because like I said, for the past 24 hours, my daughter has had a stomach bug. So as of 9:30 at night, just after she had gone to sleep, not last night, the night before, she woke up and just had thrown up everything she had eaten. I was like, oh, it's going to be that night. Okay. And I had to lock in. I'm a single mom. I don't have the luxury of having a man around to be like, here, I'll take care of that. And even if he was around, a lot of times I'm hearing that's not the case either. So whatever, it is what it is. But you do absolutely have to lock in when that emergency hits. I didn't sleep that whole night. I stayed awake. I forced myself to stay awake so that she could sleep, because I knew that she was going to wake up and throw up again. Like, I had to be there for her. And that is so clarifying, because you recognize in those moments of emergency, if you will, that you are the only one who can do what needs to get done. Same thing is true for what's happening in the world right now. It may not be a dire emergency of someone throwing up all night, but it's dire enough. Enough women in your life are speaking out. Enough people are saying, we don't want to do this anymore, men and women, right? We don't want to be paying all these taxes on top of taxes on top of taxes. We don't want to be doing this and that. Like, it's everywhere, right? It's not just the women saying it. The only thing that's different is that the women have a plan. We have a plan for something that will work. And we know it works because it's worked for the beginning of humanity. The only reason why it stopped working is because power and control of the patriarchy came and took it by force. If that never would have happened, we would probably still be living in a matriarchy. Probably. And I think that we learn our lessons, right? So we're moving forward. It's not going to be the same as the past. It will be different. It will look different. And I know a lot of you have been asking me personally, like, what is your plan? What's your opinion? And I think this is the point where I'm going to share it. My personal belief is that I think it will be best for our culture if we move into a matriarchy. I said it. For at least the first few generations, because at that point, the children that would have been grown and raised in a matriarchy through those generations are now going to create naturally, organically, an egalitarianism society. That's it. That's my big plan. There is no, like, let's demonize the men and no. So stop. Stop. It's about letting the women who know what they're doing take over and fix what's been broken. Reimagine it. Turn it into something else that's going to be beneficial for all of us. Not just the 1% on the top, which, by the way, is how the patriarchy works. That's their goal. The patriarchy's goal is to help the 1%. Help them get richer. Help them stay in power, stay on top. The matriarchy perspective or approach, like I said, is the circle. Everyone contributes, everyone gets benefit from it. As long as everyone is doing their job. We're all meant to do our own jobs. I'm not meant to go into Jules' lane or Shannon's lane. They're not meant to come into mine. We are meant to work together in our own lanes that actually lifts all ships. And that's how it's meant to be. Truly believe that. I believe that the matriarchy is needed, matrilineal. I want to explain the difference here just because I promised I would to you guys. Matrilineal just means that lineage is traced through the mother. So again, you wouldn't keep your father or your husband's new last name. He would actually marry into your family name. And then you could trace your children back all the way through the mother's line. Matrifocal is another term that's being thrown out a lot. That means that the mother is the center of the family structure, which again, I don't see a problem with. This woman is bringing new life into this world and has to take care of them. Somebody should be taking care of the mothers. I don't think that's a bold thing to say. And then the last one is matriarchy itself. At its root, it's about how a society organizes care, leadership, and continuity. So again, just to bring it all back, that's the biggest difference, is that patriarchy's goals are power, control, domination. A matriarchy's focal point is care, leadership, and continuity. Knowing how to make the well-oiled machine continue to run like it's supposed to benefit everyone. Hello, welcome in. I don't know who Aunt Sup is, but I actually am I'm a shamanic healer, a seer. I don't vote. So you're wrong. I didn't vote for anybody. So good job though. Keep saying
I'm so
it.
glad that you finally addressed that, because I was over here just biting.
I was
my
just
tongue.
about to
You
also.
haven't figured out. If you haven't figured out that both parties have been suckered by rich ass billionaires, like come
Both
on,
of them.
guys. Come on,
Right.
guys.
Right. I think
We're not
here's again, sorry, go ahead. Did you want to keep going?
No, sorry. I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
Well, I would like to address something
Go ahead.
in regard to that, because she just keeps chiming in. So here's the thing. Today is our only reality, right now. We live in this now moment, and everything else that happened before is whatever it is, and we can only be here right now. From right here and right now, our choices are what guide us forward, all right? So regardless of who anybody voted for, are people capable of recognizing that was a bad choice? Or I would like to operate from this point forward. I am exhausted, and I'm going to imagine that she is a liberal woman who is bound to this hate narrative. I don't give a fuck who anybody voted for. Are you showing up for yourself first and foremost today?
Mhm.
Are you sacrificing any parts of yourself for a dogma or a party or a something else that no longer serves your highest good because you cannot move past belief systems that have been etched into your reality? And this is part of why we cannot move forward as a culture, because people are still divided in this left and right. That's an illusion state. They're all on the same team. It's us against them. It's the top against the bottom.
Yep.
So fuck anybody who's still bound to red and blue narrative. If that's you, scroll along. Leave.
Right.
You're not here to contribute to a better way, a more inclusive way of thinking, because you're still bound to a hate narrative, whether it's on the left or the right.
Mhm.
Those are all densities that are being removed from the human story quite literally right now as we're in all these planets in Aries. So take all your spiritual kindling ounce up, light it on fire, let yourself be free from whatever judgments or hindrances you are holding on to. You're not listening to anything that we're saying here. You're bound to old storylines. And that's unfortunate. We're here to plant dream seeds of new ways of being, and that has nothing to do with anything that's happening on a government level, but rather on an inclusive community building level. And that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm not going to let this side rail the whole conversation, but I am going to say this because a lot of people do tend to misunderstand me. Just because I make a video doesn't mean that I have a full support of somebody. I watch, I learn, I research, and then I make videos talking about the things. So specifically what you might be talking about is how I made a video talking about, is Trump ushering in the age of Aquarius? That, if you watch it without emotion, you realize it's very factual video. And it has very purposeful meanings of why I'm making those points. I love what you said, Shannon, because and one of the people in the comments said this too. We've lost our ability to think critically, to be able to look at something, kind of like the video I posted today, without placing yourself in the seat of the person who's talking and making it about you when it's not, right? It's important that we practice these skills because that's the only way we're going to get anywhere moving forward. If we are not willing to listen to one another, if we are not willing to give the benefit of the doubt, right, to someone else, then you're shoving your own foot in your mouth. That's it. Like you're creating more problems for yourself that don't need to be there. They're not even necessary. But anyhow.
But can we talk about how this moral absolutism that we're engaging in on social media is 120% patriarchal?
Oh, for sure, please. And thank you for bringing it back.
Yeah,
but it's true.
Like the church, it leaves no room for people to be human beings, to, you know, make mistakes, to grow, to I have watched people go after creators for something that they did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, it's true. All right, so back to the point. Let's do that. Let's stay on track, shall we? Let me see if I can. There's freaking all these buttons everywhere. Okay. All right. Now, a true matriarchy doesn't come crashing in the way that the patriarchy did. And I think we need to talk about that too. We're already doing it. A lot of us women are already doing it in our homes, in our communities. You know, we're already making the choice to start doing things differently. So it's not going to be like, and I think it's important to recognize that, because it's not going to be all of a sudden we wake up one day and everything's changed. No, we are the ones who are bringing the change. We're the ones doing it. So what it's going to actually look like is waking up one day and realizing, you know what, today I'm going to do it a little different. Today I'm not going to make the man my center of focus the whole day. Instead, I'm going to focus on myself. What's going to make me happy? How can I bring happiness to the people around me, instead of the other approach, right? Of like, well, what can I do so that everyone else is happy with me, right? You know, all these little things are important. A true matriarchy doesn't conquer. It grows. It grows quietly in the background until one day you do wake up and say, whoa, cool. It did change. There is a lot of different changes here, you know. Yes, you are the answer you're seeking in your life. And yes, relationships are the most abundant resource on the planet. And it's I think, genuinely overlooked quite a bit than it really should be. But it goes both ways. Again, that's another big conversation, because it can be someone's ability to reach out and try to be a community member. And then there's the other side of it, who people genuinely don't want anyone reaching out to them to be a community member. So that's literally like a whole other conversation. But I do agree. Let's see. Through community, through relationship, through the way that we raise our children, support each other, and make decisions together. That's the way that the matriarchy will begin to rise. In my dreams, there is a major event, and the women finally stand up and say, enough is enough. we're taking over the Capitol, you know. I'm being silly, obviously, but like, I would love it if it were to be here now, right? Again, it goes back to why we're doing this. Because if not enough of us truly get it, if we don't truly understand what we're asking, and it's hard to really pinpoint that vision, then we don't know what we're trying to manifest at that point. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any one major sparking event. And I think probably our perspective of history and being able to read it in books like a story makes it feel like that's how change happens. But change always happens slow.
Right.
I mean, even living through those revolutions, they didn't feel like they happened like that to the people on the ground.
Yeah. Shannon, I wanted to ask you a question. What comes up for you when you hear the term female feminism? What comes up for you when you hear feminism?
You know, I have done a full cycle with that word. I was a raging feminist as a teenager, And, you know, in the 90s, that was not, it was like a rising thing. There was an event on my college campus called Take Back the Night. And this was where women would come out and tell their stories and, like, you know, hold each other in safety. So in that perspective, I was a raging feminist. And then I gave birth to a son. And, you know, that was a very pinnacle moment in my life because I realized that I didn't want to shun him. I wanted to empower him to be the best version of himself that he can be. And so in that respect, in again, back to natural systems, there is balance in honoring the roles that both play in a natural system. And I think that we have lost honoring the gifts that women hold. We have lost the honoring that the process of birth and life-giving. You know, so there needs to be a way to weave it all back in together from a place of balance. And in restoring balance, that does require us to honor the gifts of the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that answers your question, but the word feminism is very triggering for many people. And I think that anytime that I have taken a stance that might be construed as a feminist perspective, I end up getting a lot of pushback from the men in my life. But in reality, you know, they have been taught to reject the feminine parts of themselves, not being able to cry, not being given emotional intelligence, not allowing themselves to step into or pursue career roles that might have been construed as feminine. You know, it wasn't cool to be a nurse and a man until like maybe 10 years ago. And I don't even know that that is the case. But for me, the reestablishing of balance comes in when all of us can honor the reality that we are both divine feminine and divine masculine, and that, you know, we need to forge a path together forward. And in being the mother of a son, I value that my son is 17 years old and he has a very clear understanding of who he is as a person. And he makes it a point of his own accord to be a better man than the men who came before him. Because I see him and his generation of friends looking at the men in the world, looking at the men in their culture, and being very disappointed and not wanting that for themselves. So I think that that's a layer of the story that we're also not looking at, is how empowered and fed up the teenage boys are. They're not going to be drafted. They're not. I would love to see a draft where I would love to see someone show up and try to, like, there's no way. And you can't force these people to fight a war that they don't believe in. They're not going to pick up the guns. They're not going to do the things the way that the generations before us did.
Right.
So, you know, that I'm going off on a tangent also here, but yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Jules? Do you have any feelings or thoughts that come to mind with the word feminism?
I think what it's meant to be at its core is very similar to what we're talking about, but it's gotten so twisted in the public psyche over the years because of I think I talked about this last time. Some people act from their wounding and some people act from their healing. And I think when anybody engages with any kind of philosophical concept like that, regardless of what it is, you're going to have a lot of, in the case of feminism, you had a lot of very angry, wounded women that can occasionally give it this very toxic feeling edge. Do I think that was what it was meant to be, where men are feeling shamed and stuff by it? No, I don't think that's what it's supposed to be. But I think there's that we may have gotten to a place where it's almost more detrimental to even use the word because there's so many loaded ideas in people's heads of what it is and what it should be and all of the things.
Yeah. What I've noticed a lot recently, especially since starting to talk out more about this stuff, is that tends to be one of the accusations or bad names that I get called from men. Oh, we just have another raging feminist on our hands. And I'm like, wow.
Immediate way to dismiss you. Yeah.
Way to listen.
Mhm.
Go back and watch my video from today, sir. Thank you. And it's just wild to me because that's what it's come down to. Men want to know why women are so angry. That's why. That's why we are dismissed the moment we start to speak about anything that matters to us. We're dismissed. We're told you're being too feminine. You're feeling too much. You're too much. Oh, now you're a raging feminist because you believe in equality. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. That should make you a feminist too, then, if that's your definition. You know what I mean? Like, it's wild to me. So I really appreciate you guys sharing your opinion because I think it's important that we talk about that. My first interaction ever really with the word feminist in that context was I received a free mug from a friend years ago when I was married, and it just had the word feminist on it. I was like, oh, that's cute. I like it. I'm a woman. I believe in women's rights. I'm a feminist. You know, I didn't even think much more about that. And it was my husband at the time, who was like, throw that mug away. You're not a feminist. And it just threw me off. I was like, what? What are you talking about? First of all. Second, why are you demanding what I do with my own property? Like, this is weird. And I learned later it was because his whole concept of feminist comes from that portrayal, right? That portrayal that all feminists are raging liberals and they're all angry and they're all out to like key your car and throw pink paint on it or something. Like, no. When this first started out, it was never that. And I truly believe that the media itself, the government even itself, don't shut me down, TikTok, has something to do with that, kind of controlling that narrative for precisely this reason, because it gives us ammo against each other, when in reality, they know that if we were to be working together, that it would be the end of them. And I think, thankfully, we're all realizing that now, too. So that's good. All right. So we have any last comments there from you guys before I open it up to the chat?
Yeah, I just want to throw something out that came to my mind while you were talking there. Statistically, 80% of all the holiday, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, is put together by women. 80% of it. And that's the meals, going and getting the gifts, decorating the house, creating all of the magic of the holidays. And so that time of year, everybody's comfortable with women doing what they do. But there was a challenge put out, like, what would happen if women decided not to participate in the holidays? What would that look like? And the response was, well, but that would ruin it for the children. Right? And so we have like this really interesting, weird web that we've created where we value these skill sets as it benefits, men benefit from showing up to Thanksgiving and being fed.
Yeah.
I have a brother who did not bring anything or do anything for years. And finally one year I was like, can you wash the fucking dishes or anything?
Right.
Like contribute something.
Yeah.
And, that is just a weird joke. Like, I want the man package for the holidays. I want to just show up and be like, oh, what did you get the kids? Oh, what dessert did you bring? That's again off on a tangent, but wherever we benefit from the gifts and skills of women, everybody's cool with it. Right. But the minute that they want to say something, that's where we've become, a raging feminist.
Right.
And that again, back to the balance.
Right.
that whole thing reminded me of my mother's side of the family is matriarchal, and we have been told, I don't know if this is true, but we've been told that we're one of the longest running family reunions in the country.
Oh,
Do you know
wow.
why we're one of the longest family reunions in the country? Because we're matriarchal.
Right.
Because it was the women that, like, we descend from three sisters, and that was ingrained in us that the women come back to the home place every year. That's why we're still here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same way. My mom was one of 7 kids. My grandmother is one of 9. Lots of women. And the women have always been the ones running the show. Like, in a good way. In the good way. Not in the manipulative way that men think that women mean when we say that. Like, it's no. A lot of us actually have come from these female led families already. That's why we're ready for the matriarch. We already know how to do this. It's like, just let us do it already, because we've been doing it our whole lives, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So this, if we're all done sharing our comments, I'm going to go ahead and open it up now to the chat. If anyone would like to come up and join and ask a question or share an opinion, anything like that.
I want to respond to Warrior Mama real fast. In some cases, doing all that constantly can be stressful too much. The women aren't doing all of that. The women are centered in the family way. The men are still taking care of the business of the land. They're going down there and cleaning it up. They're involved in the business meeting. We're not doing everything. That's not the purpose of a matriarchy either, is to have the women do everything.
Right. Right. I mean, ideally, again, it goes back to everyone knowing what their role is and everyone sticking to it and doing what you know you're there to do, knowing that it's not just benefiting you, but it's benefiting the whole community. And there's passion in that, right? There's pride in that you can take in knowing that, like, hey, I helped build this. And I know that there's no one who could speak more on that than Trippy. So welcome.
Hey,
did you have any questions or comments? Anything? The floor is yours.
Well, I had a few things to say. One, I'm super happy that this space is happening and this conversation's happening. I really feel that, to the point that everybody plays their part, there's a certain sort of vision casting that is needing about, what a brighter and brighter world actually looks like and what it can potentially entail, like in all of the degrees. And some people look at that in a very narrow aspect. Some people want utopia. And, in between that, there's a lot of people who don't, we just don't conceptualize what could be better these days. I'm reminded of, the fair, the world fairs that we used to have, where it's this is what, Earth will look like in 100 years. We just don't have that sense of shared vision casting anymore. So I'm really grateful to see y'all in this space, doing a little bit of it on your own. And then to the point of feminism, I put it in the comments, but I've had women tell me not to work with the men that I trust because of feminism. And that to me has really soured the concept. Cause I don't know, I could sit here and wax poetic about how that topic has gone from a way of liberation for women to basically a psyop and an ounce of division, and then it's changed a lot over, and you could talk about first wave, second wave, third wave, but it's come down to if you're telling me not to work with people that I trust and know and have built relationships with, then we have a problem here. And, I think that, as I said earlier, relationships is one of the most abundant resources on the planet. Getting to the fact that, we can take the time to start building those relationships, both on the ground where we are in a localism sense, as well as, through online cyberspaces like this. That to me matters more than the labels that we can put on any of this, sort of thing, because I feel that what's true in the moment of that relationship building, it has, many different relationships have potential to build upon that, that idea of choosing different choices, making better decisions, and bringing about, planting the seeds. That is the long game, like you said, this won't happen overnight. We won't just wake up and it'll all be different. It'll be time and intention over and over again as we make the inches of progress to the point where we can actually see, in hindsight, what has been changed.
Right. I agree. And I definitely brought up the feminism comment because I think it needed to be addressed, right? Like there's so many women who are kind of, again, it goes back to the matriarchy conversation. What is the matriarchy? I don't know, but go matriarchy, right? If we understand what people mean when they say certain things, then I think that's going to help a lot as well with the just the clarity of it all. So bringing up the fact that feminism or feminist is a word, but it's also a thing now. It's important to really be able to dissect that. So thank you for that input for sure. Did you want to share? I would love it if you shared, just as an example, some of the stuff that you've been doing in your town as well, because this is where that hope comes from, you guys, is seeing other people do it. You realize, wow, it maybe isn't as hard as I think it is, and maybe I can do it too. So this is impromptu. I didn't ask you to do this before or anything, but I would love it if you just wanted to spend a couple minutes while I ask anyone else who's in the chat, if you have any questions or opinions you want to share, send me an invite now, because we're probably only going to go for just a few more minutes today. But go ahead, Trip, when you're ready.
Yes, I would absolutely love to share, because I've been treating my life this last year as a make my own adventure. And I've been very keen on trying to civically participate where I can be of assistance. So that has led me, my big dream and goal was to put on a festival that celebrates an entire town, gives them an opportunity to, come out from their homes and celebrate in different ways and aspects. Right now it's a 3-day festival, including a scavenger hunt down Main Street as a way to, I'm very fortunate that the Main Street in my town is relatively active, and most businesses are like mom and pop style. They're not corporations, it's restaurants, it's barbershops. We also have Jack's Plastic Welding, which is an employee-owned business that actually just provided the raft for NASA. And so that's been like a big celebration around my town this whole week. But so Friday night is for them, is to celebrate them and what they do with the scavenger hunt. And we're going to have like live acts and those kinds of things, and family-friendly vendors. Then on Saturday, we're doing an all-day concert at like my favorite park in town. It's so big. It has enough space for all of the activities, which are going to include like a car show, food trucks, vendors, like just a way for people to get out and enjoy, late summer and enjoy each other's company. Good food, good music, that kind of thing. A little fellowshipping and sharing there. And then on Sunday, we're doing an interfaith service. So I'm going to try and get as many different faith leaders in the area to sit on stage with me and have a philosophical conversation about where religions align, golden rule and those kinds of things. And immediately after that, we're having a pancake breakfast for further fellowship and sharing. And so I really fully believe that in the aspect of collective solidarity and, finding the avenues where, those vision castings, solar punk futures and those kinds of things happen best when, working toward, having experiences, positive experiences that make people think fondly about where they are in a localism sense, as well as, in the grander sense of the world. And so that's been the big project. But I've also recently gotten myself involved with the city's planning and zoning board, which I legitimately feel like the dumbest kid in the room, which is great. I love that. It feels like a challenge to me. I have a lot of catching up to do in that regard, because there's been a lot of, cussing and discussing about what civic participation can look like. And I think that it's different in every location. Mm-hmm. I think that, but I think that involving ourselves with the people on the ground, first and foremost, to build those relationships is really important and keen. So the planning and zoning board was a way for me to kind of give directly back to the city that I grew up here. I moved away for 12 years to move to a big city, and now I'm back. And because I have that perspective of living abroad and coming home, they find that very valuable in the development of what the area is going to look like next. And then I'm also on the growth management group for the county, which that is something that's supposed to happen every 5 years, and we are 3 years overdue for ours. But it includes affordable housing plans. It includes land use ideas, and it really takes a look at where we were. So for instance, my county is very much an oil and gas county, or at least it was, decades ago. It slowly dried up over time. When I left here 12 years ago, there was 12 companies operating in an oil and gas fashion. Now there are only 2. Mm-hmm. And that might be because the area itself has kind of dried up and things like that. So we're trying to figure out what to pivot to next, so that way this oil town doesn't just straight dry up. And it's full of like really passionate people. Sitting members of both county commissioners and city commissioners are on this board, as well as like economic developers and people of the planning and zoning boards of different cities, because we want to make sure that, you know, this continues to be a good area for people to work, live, and play. And so all of that is to say, like, I wouldn't have been able to get this far along without showing up like authentically and consistently. And so what I'm trying to do is kind of a lead by example sort of like way, because I am wholly new to this. I feel like a dog chasing a car some days, but I find that my participation is making those ripple effects and making change in the small, you know, the small ripple waves that could eventually stack up to giant waves.
Yeah. So share real quick where you are and when that event is, if anyone wants to come.
Yeah, so I am in Aztec, New Mexico, which is in the Four Corners area. The Citizens Revival will be the 28th, 29th, and 30th of August. So the weekend right before Labor Day.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that, Trippy. Appreciate it.
Happy to.
Tripp,
Absolutely happy
I just want
to.
to say, as a former reporter who has sat through a lot of planning and zoning meetings, I still don't understand half of it, and I've been to a lot of them. That's a lot. That's a lot to figure out. So my hat is off to you.
Yeah, that's
Thank you
awesome.
very kindly. I appreciate it.
And I wanted her to share that because that's a really great example of what it means to be able to, honey, don't get in my shot, to be able to, a really great example of what it means to just start somewhere. What she ended up doing was going to the place where she lives and said, how can I get involved? Here's some ideas that I have. Can we do them? And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day in your own lives, in your own communities. If you have an idea, figure out who you got to ask about it or talk to about it, and just start doing it. Start getting it done. Truthfully, Trippy, I love you and I appreciate that you're doing that. And I'm sort of bummed that you moved from Colorado because I would have loved to have come to that. But maybe you can help too. I mean, I know you're so busy, but I mean, if anybody has any questions, that's kind of the whole purpose too, right? Is like reach out to each other, ask questions. I don't understand how to do this, but you do. Can you help me with it? You know, don't feel so afraid of what you look like, or if you, like she was saying, I'm the dumbest person in the room. Good, right? Like those are the rooms that you grow in the most. So don't be afraid of that, you know, because we all have to start somewhere, and it's important to start, especially with these types of conversations. Let's see. So I hopefully now everyone kind of understands that there is a difference between matriarchy and patriarchy. I want to circle back one more time to what I was trying to express, which is the idea that I have that I think would be the most beneficial would be starting out with a matriarchy, allowing that to take root for at least a couple generations, and then it naturally, organically will turn into an egalitarian society. Because at that point, those generations of kids have been raised to understand emotional capacity, emotional maturity, right? How to communicate with each other, how to get things done without attacking someone else to make sure it gets done. Because again, that is a line of the patriarchy that says that's the only way to do it. You have to control, you have to conquer, you have to take over. If you want something done, you got to be the victor and like destroy everything else. And it's just not the case. It doesn't have to be. And thankfully, we're all beginning to see that now. So if anyone, including you, Tripp, if you want as well, if anyone has any closing statements, any last comments that you want to share, let me know. I'll put you up.
I have to run soon just because I'm hearing. I just have to run soon, so maybe I'll just do my little closing, and then if there's any more conversation that needs to take place, then does that sound feasible?
That's perfect. I'm closing it up now. Yeah. So any last comments?
All right. Perfect. Okay, so just in closing, I want to bring us into a place of awareness that here we are in a new moon in Aries, and we have all of these other planets in Aries, and I want to just plant a dream seed of awareness there is a phenomenon in the natural world where there are plants, they're called pyrophytic plants. And these are mostly trees, but there's also some other species of plants. And the seed cannot open until it's exposed to fire. And so I want to bring us into an awareness place that I think the seed of this has been here in our consciousness for maybe hundreds of generations. And it is in the fire of our current reality. It's in the presence of our sacred rage. It's in the presence of the light of our own energetic fields radiating at such a high frequency that is exposing the potential to that fire. And in opening up our pyrophytic nature as a culture, planting that seed so that we can not allow whatever narratives or storyscapes make us feel that this is impossible. In the presence of all this fire right now, I would implore you to release all of that. Release all the limitations and only hold on to the potential of that which has never been here before, that we have it within us to weave all of this together to make anew for all beings on the planet. So again, in closing, just taking a deep breath and planting that dream seed in your own heart space, in the fire of your own being. May we be exposed to the pyrophytic nature of our own consciousness and allow this to emerge from our culture, not from a place of fire's destruction, but from its warmth, but from its gratitude, but from the way we feel the light of the sun on our face after a long period of darkness. May we be the light this world needs. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you all you lovely ladies. Lisa, to answer your question, yes. It usually takes a few minutes, so I don't know, check around like 1 or 2 o'clock Mountain Time. I don't know what time that is for you, but it will be posted on my YouTube after this. So if you missed anything at all, please feel free. Let's see, Jules, any last comments from you, my dear?
I think what Shannon said was beautiful. I don't have anything to add to that.
All right. Well, then this concludes today's Wolfmother's Council. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you. We will be back again in 2 weeks. We do this every other Friday, 10 o'clock Mountain Time, 11 o'clock Central Time, 12 o'clock Eastern Time. It's hard to remember all that, right? So yeah, please join us. We're going to be talking more and more about the matriarchy, how to make it a reality in your own life. And this conversation has only just started. So we love you and have a lovely rest of your weekend. It's Friday. Have a great week.